Hello knitters, Barbara Benson here. I'm an independent knitwear designer who also likes to make videos here on my YouTube channel, Watch Barbara Knit. Make sure to check in the description notes below the video where you will find links to all of my online shenanigans, including how to join the Watch Barbara Knit Facebook group, how to get my patterns to knit up for yourself, how to support me on Patreon, and where to get Watch Barbara Knit merchandise. Today we have a swatch lab, but it is a slightly different swatch lab than when I am putting a specific yarn through its paces. Today I wanted to talk about a specific technique that is very, very common in knitting, and it is one of those things that a lot of people might use the term just willy-nilly without taking into consideration that it is a specialized term and that not everyone might be familiar with it. I'm going to guess if you have been knitting for any length of time, you have heard the term ribbing. R-I-B-B-I-N-G. Also, you will see like 1x1 or 1x1 ribbing or 2x2 ribbing or iterations thereof. And again, as knitters, we take it for granted that other knitters know exactly what we're talking about when we say that, but just in case you don't know, I thought it would be fun to get into the technical aspect about it a little bit. Now, we're going to talk first, and then I'm going to show you the visual examples to further illustrate what I am discussing. I've already got that filmed. But to start off with, we are going to consult the Principles of Knitting, the gigantic knitting book. I'm going to have to switch my glasses to get out my bifocals. I'm sure occasionally some of y'all might be able to relate. Now it says, vertical ribbing. Ribbing, often called welting in Great Britain, consists of alternating vertical columns of knit and purl stitches. Okay, that is what they say. It goes on for more yammers, but I actually dropped that on the ground. Got to switch back to my other glasses now. Wikipedia also has an excellent, it says, in knitting, ribbing is a pattern in which vertical stripes of stockinette stitch alternate with vertical stripes of reverse stockinette stitch. These two types of stripes may be separated by other stripes in which knit and purl stitches alternate vertically, blah, blah, blah. And something that I didn't know going into it, the individual vertical columns are called wales, W-A-L-E-S, like in corduroy, which I think is kind of fun. But what we are talking about is, and these are the swatches that you'll see much more close up, taking a pattern, and what you do is you, like 1x1 ribbing is right side, knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one. And then on the wrong side, it's knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one, making sure, like if you ended with a purl, you begin the next row with a knit stitch because you want to be knitting into the back of the purl. So if you have an odd number, it's not going to come out. You just got to follow the instructions. And if you are knitting in the round, it is literally just knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one, all the way around. And it creates these vertical columns of knits. And then you can see in between purls. The purpose of this is to cause the fabric to contract. And it allows the fabric to lay flat. This is a stockinette. So I did all these little tiny swatches. You're going to see them more closely. These are the exact same yarn on the exact same needles, and I cast on 12 stitches for each of these tiny swatches. Now, they are different lengths, and I'll tell you why in a moment. So we're only comparing widths. But this is what stockinette wants to do naturally, because the size of this piece of fabric, because it's all knit stitches, is different than the size of this. I will link to a Why Stockinette Curls video. So it wants to curl, right? If you have an even number of knits and purls, it doesn't want to curl because you've evened out that fabric. But then I'm going to illustrate to you when you get into larger units, instead of just knit 1, purl 1, you can knit 2, purl 2, knit 3, purl 3, etc., etc., etc. Now, these are all different lengths, they're different heights, because when you're doing ribbing, sometimes the more stitches are in each column, like knit 1, purl 1 pretty much does this within the first few rows or rounds. Knit 2, purl 2, you need to do a few more rows or rounds before you start getting that contracting effect. And once you get up into 3, 3, you got to do more to get the effect, because it just has to be able to fight against its own surface tension. Now, what is the purpose of ribbing? Ribbing is frequently found on cuffs and collars and hems and the tops of socks, anywhere where you want the fabric to constrict to support itself. Also to make it lay flat, because if you're using a stitch pattern in the body of whatever you're making that tends to curl, by adding the ribbing on the bottom or the beginning of it, you will help it lie flat. So you have this flat portion, and then you can get into the part that might tend to curl. Ribbing is also used sometimes as a shaping element. I've seen quite a few garments where they actually put ribbing down the side so it'll contract in and make the garment more fitted without actually having to go through the increasing and decreasing necessary to create a fitted garment. So when you are looking at a pattern and deciding how to block it, you need to evaluate whether or not the ribbing in this pattern is serving a function. Because sometimes you'll just use ribbing as a decorative item. Again, if it's just letting it lay flat, you can typically block it because it's still going to lay flat. But if the design is because you want this contraction, you see it frequently on brims of hats, and it's what keeps it on your head. Okay, so you want that ribbing to actually do what it's designed to do. So when you're blocking it, you don't want to block it out. You want to let it do that contraction so it'll keep your socks up, so it'll keep your hat on, so it'll keep your cuffs down around your wrists, etc., etc. So this is just a little bit of a deep dive into ribbing so you can see how it's going. I'm going to cut to very close up so you can see those swatches. We are starting here with a stockinette swatch. Okay, this is cast on 12 stitches, knit the right side row, purl the wrong side row. That's all that's going on here. As you can see, it wants to curl because that's what stockinette does, but I'm going to lay it out. And so you can see this is about how big it is. All right, let's get this guy down here. Fine. Next, let's compare it to 1 by 1 ribbing. And I'm just going to lay this right on top. We're only looking at the width here because these swatches have a different number of rows, which I discussed. So if you look here, these are unblocked. But you can see the gauge here, the width, even though this is the same, this is 12 stitches, and it is knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1 across, and then you flip it over and knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. So you're knitting the knits and purling the purls. If I pull it, you can see the ribs, but unblocked and just allowed to do what it wants to do. The nature of the fabric, if I line it up on this edge, you can see that it's pulling in, and we have a significant size difference. Okay, I'm going to move this stockinette swatch. Now, if we go to a 2 by 2 rib, that's knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, flip it over, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, and then end with purl 2 here. And we compare this to the 1 by 1 ribbing. If I line this up on the edge, on this side, you can again see we have contracted more. And then the 2 by 2 compared to just plain stockinette, you can see how much of a difference that is there. Like a whole finger here. And then finally, let's look at 3 by 3. Again, a cast on of 12, knit 3, purl 3, knit 3, purl 3. Flip it over, knit 3, purl 3, knit 3, purl 3. And if I line it up on this edge, you can see here how much we've contracted in. Here is the edge of the 2 by 2, and here is the edge of the 3 by 3. So you can see, if I like line it up, it's different. And that is the nature of ribbing, comparing the 3 by 3 to the 1 by 1. Look, that much difference. And then the 3 by 3 to the stockinette, look how much that's come in. I mean, that is really a significant difference. Now, these are unblocked, and if I open it up and force it, yes, we can get the same size. But if you want your ribbing to function as ribbing, you don't really want to force it. If we're using it for its nature of contracting in, then why block it out? So again, here's the 1 by 1, and it's cool because 1 by 1 essentially looks like stockinette, but it just looks like stockinette on both sides unless you block it out. 2 by 2 definitely does not have that same stockinette look. I mean, it sort of does, but it bumps more. If I pull it out, you can see the ribs and the 3 by 3. And all the ribbing is alternating panels of stockinette and reverse stockinette. And since stockinette wants to curl, and it's stockinette, it's going to contract in. If I do this, again, if I just flip it, it wants to curl. So it's essentially just this, and then this. There we go. Those were the close-ups of my little tiny ribbing swatches. I encourage you to play with this by yourself. Again, the stitch patterns are super easy. It's knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, or knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 3, purl 3, however you want to do it. As you saw, the wider it gets, the more it kind of contracts, but when you block it, it's going to flatten out and it's not going to have quite unless you leave it unblocked, it's not going to have that pull-in power. And of course, you can also do ribbing in uneven sequences. You'll see this a lot in patterns that are going into cables because you want that ribbing to flow smoothly into the pattern that is coming after it. So you might see a pattern that's like knit 2, purl 2, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, knit 2, so it'll have an irregular repeat. Again, as long as there is an equal number of knits and purls, or roughly equal, it's still going to lay flat and it is still going to contract, so you can play with that. Now, on the contrary side, sometimes people want to introduce cables or other things into the ribbing pattern, and whenever you do that, it's going to kind of detract from the ribbing's actual ability to be structural and actually shape things, because if you get them too far apart, it's not really going to be able to do its thing. But it is a lot of fun to play with, and ribbing is a fantastic thing for scarves. If you want to knit a scarf that is going to lay flat and you don't have to worry about it, knit 1, purl 1, knit 2, purl 2, knit, you know, it's gonna lay flat, it's not gonna curl up on you, and you are gonna have a great scarf. Or you can simply do like the ribbing on the sides and stockinette in the middle and ribbing on the sides, or however you want to do it. So that was our close look at the technique of ribbing in Swatch Lab. And hopefully if you had any questions about ribbing now, like maybe I answered some of them, or it makes you think a little bit more deeply about this very simple knitting technique. And if you didn't know what ribbing was and you were like, people keep using that word, now you know what it is. So if there are any other techniques that are like this kind of technique that you've had questions about, that you would like to see a deeper dive into with Swatch Lab, please let me know in the comments and I'll see what I can do. If you like this video, please give it the thumbs up, click that like button, and if you would like to be notified whenever I upload a new video, please subscribe to my channel and select notifications. Thank you so much.